Welcome to This Explainer. Look, if you're tuning in right now, there's a good chance you might be part of a truly staggering statistic. Roughly 1 in 3 adults currently struggles with sleep. And before we get into anything else, I just want to deeply acknowledge the sheer exhaustion that comes with that. Navigating your day-to-day life when your body is just desperately craving rest, it is an immense challenge. And honestly, the cruelest part of this whole struggle is captured so perfectly by this idea. Your heart is a little too fast, your mind is a little too loud. Man, that hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? It completely validates that incredibly frustrating experience of just lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, and being utterly unable to switch off. I want you to know right now that the problem you're facing isn't actually a lack of tiredness. You are already exhausted. The reality is the harder you try to force sleep, the further away it seems to drift. So, this brings us to the ultimate question for today's explainer. Does ASMR actually work for insomnia? Are those whispered, softly spoken, tapping audio files floating all over the internet a real biological remedy? Or are they just, a digital placebo? Today, we're not dealing in hype, and we're definitely not just going to shrug and guess. I promise you a purely science-backed answer.
Section 1. The real insomnia problem. Okay, let's dive right into this. To figure out if ASMR can actually help us, we first have to understand the root biological cause of our sleepless nights. First things first, we need to completely reframe how we think about sleep. The pervasive myth out there is that you just aren't tired enough. So you might, skip naps or drink coffee just to push through the day. But the reality? It is biological hyperarousal. Your nervous system is essentially stuck in fight or flight mode, which is driven by the sympathetic branch. But what your body desperately needs is to shift into rest and digest mode, which is controlled by the parasympathetic branch. Let's actually define the enemy clearly here so we know exactly what we're up against. Hyperarousal is an elevated state of physiological tension. Think of that racing heart and elevated cortisol. Combine that with cognitive activity, which is that racing mind that absolutely refuses to shut down, replaying today's awkward moments and already rehearsing tomorrow. This right here is what prevents sleep. Any viable sleep remedy you try absolutely must successfully lower this exact biological state. If it doesn't quiet the system, it's just not going to help you. Section 2. What the science says. We are now bypassing the internet anecdotes and looking directly at what researchers have actually measured inside the human body. And this number brilliantly illustrates the physiological impact: 3.14. That is the exact average drop in heart rate, in beats per minute, found in Dr. Julio Puerio's 2018 PLOS ONE controlled lab study. When participants who respond to ASMR watch these videos, their heart rates dropped significantly. Now you might be thinking, 3 beats a minute, that sounds tiny, but it's actually a massive finding because it proves that ASMR physically turns on the parasympathetic nervous system. It's doing the exact same thing to your body as deep breathing or meditation. But wait, notice this specific number, 1,037. Because that heart rate drop, that's only half the picture. What about the racing mind? Well, in a 2022 Journal of Affective Disorders study involving 1,037 adults, researchers found that experiencing ASMR significantly decreased overall arousal. But here is the critical takeaway for us. The absolute largest effects were seen in people who had both insomnia and depression symptoms. The folks whose sleep is most wrecked by a busy, low mood, they were the ones who calmed down the most. And honestly, we see this reflected in how people actually interact with ASMR out in the real world. A 2015 PeerJ survey by Barat and Davis, which was actually the very first peer-reviewed ASMR paper, showed that a massive 82% of users turned to ASMR specifically for sleep. Using ASMR to combat sleepless nights isn't just some fringe use case. It is literally the primary reason people seek it out in the first place. Even the formal medical community is catching up to this reality. At the 2026 Sleep Conference, researchers presented data mapping ASMR patterns directly to insomnia symptoms. This is huge, guys. It signals that formal sleep medicine is actively adopting this research. They're moving ASMR out from being just a quirky internet curiosity and straight into the realm of serious scientific study. Section 3. The honest reality check. Look, as enthusiastic as I am about helping you finally get some sleep, maintaining strict neutrality is key to actually solving this problem. Let's look at the current limits of this research. While the data is incredibly promising, we absolutely have to recognize a few caveats. The evidence is genuinely early. It relies mostly on surveys and smaller lab experiments.
We don't get to have large, randomized control trials proving it treats clinical insomnia the way we do for something like cognitive behavioral therapy. Also, only about 25 to 30% of people actually experience those physical brain tingles, though to be fair, many more still find it deeply relaxing. Most importantly, ASMR is not a medical care for diagnosed sleep disorders. If your insomnia has persisted for months, this is a powerful wind-down tool to complement, but definitely not replace, a doctor's care.
Section 4. How to use ASMR. Because the crucial point is how you actually apply this knowledge. A lot of people try it once, use it completely wrong, and just give up. Let's look at exactly how to ensure it works for you tonight.
Here are 6 specific safe usage guidelines drawn directly from our sources. First, you must use headphones. A lot of ASMR is binaural, meaning it's 3D sound. Your phone speakers will just flatten that out and completely ruin the effect. Second, start 15 to 20 minutes before you actually want to sleep. Your nervous system needs time to naturally wind down. Third, dim the screen or use audio only. Bright light actively triggers wakefulness, which is exactly what we don't want. Fourth, pick soft-spoken or personal attention triggers to begin with. These tend to produce the strongest calming response. Fifth, always set a sleep timer so your device turns off and doesn't randomly wake you up at 3 a.m. And sixth, commit to trying it for a full week. Like any new routine, your brain just needs time to associate these sounds with letting go.
So, ASMR is this fascinating, low-risk, completely drug-free tool that genuinely, measurably lowers the biological arousal keeping you awake. But understanding all of this leaves us with one final, pretty provocative question to ponder before our next explainer. ASMR versus melatonin. Which one is actually better? What does the clinical research say when we put them head-to-head? Well, we'll let you chew on that. Sleep well, focused learners. You absolutely deserve the rest.